Yo, how are you, sexy beasts? A year ago, I introduced you Paul in, which I really felt have a potential to kick ass at the highest level. And today, most of you know him as an Arnold champ and a winner of a lot of hard matches. Today, I have another up-and-comer for you that I strongly feel have a potential to shake world rankings in the near future. Jason Merlo out of New Jersey. He have a lot of big wins under his belt already. And now he get his chance to get the big leagues on the pre-card for WAL 503 next week. So, I'm not gonna be talking anymore and let's just listen to what he's got to say. My first question for you is going to be, how often you pull on the table?
Right now, and typically for the most part, I pulled once a week on the table. But there have been times, fairly recently within the last year, that I started doing 2 times a week on the table. And just for a short period of time, just for a few months. I think it's good to change up certain things because I think when you change up your workouts, it exposes uh, a lot of different weaknesses that maybe you didn't know of before. So my body was pretty fine tuned with once a week, and then I did 2 times a week for, like I said, a few months, and now I'm actually back on the once a week to actually sometimes every other week. And the reason why I've been doing every other week for maybe a month and a half or so is because I've just trying to take that time to hit the gym a little harder on those off weeks. But for the most part, I'd say on average for me, once a week fits well for how my body reacts in terms of recovery time and everything else.
And what do you think would be most optimal for a beginner?
Beginner, definitely once a week. I don't think it depends on the person. Everybody's body reacts differently to stress and the training of, first starting out with arm wrestling. But I would definitely say for a beginner, once a week is good. Gets them good enough exposure to start feeling, the new types of pains that come with arm wrestling training. I remember when I was a beginner just starting out, the first few months were torturous. The pains that you feel, your body's not used to that. Even if you're just a regular gym guy, your body is not used to the type of tendon soreness. So definitely once a week is a great way to stay consistent and to make good gains as a beginner.
Yeah. How long it usually takes you? How long is your table session?
Usually anywhere from around an hour and a half to 2.5 hours. It just depends on how I feel throughout the day. Throughout that session. But that's my typical time. An hour and a half to 2.5 hours. And as I progressed in the sport, my table sessions have changed quite a bit. In the beginning, it was more so, just pulling a lot of different guys. Nothing specifically, working on the table. But now, as I've progressed quite a bit in the sport, I I do a lot of reps, a lot of static stuff, and a lot of very close knit angles that I try to hit. And I do that with anybody that's at the practice, but I definitely break it down now a lot more, where it's a lot less just pulling just to pull, and it's a lot more of very specific um, range of motion stuff that I try to hit and do a lot of reps out of that. And it's really cool to change the workout that way because I think I'm getting more and more fine tuned into where I want to be and a lot more technical with the way I pull. So I think that's been helping a lot.
Yeah, you kind of answered my next question that I wanted to ask you, and we were talking about this a couple of days ago. But I
Right?
know in your team in a beast mode, you do a lot of
Yes.
statics and stuff like that for a time. And could you explain us why you do that and how is it looking?
Yeah, sure. So with the team, I think it's been a great warm up type of deal to do these static drills. We call them. We call them drills, and we usually do it at the beginning of practice, very consistently for the past few years. We'll do every position: neutral, winning, and losing. And the first drill would be for anywhere from 60 seconds to 90 seconds. Static hold right in the center of the table with back pressure, and you do that in neutral position. and then you do the same in the winning and losing position, and you do that for both arms as well. And then we'll switch off to the next drill, which would be in the hook, and we'll do that same thing, 60 to 90 seconds, neutral, winning, and losing position. Like I said, this is all static holds. I think it's a great way to get a warm up for the practice. It's like starting the key on the engine and letting your car run for a minute. Things need to warm up. Things need to get acclimated before the super high stressors that are going to come throughout the practice. And since we hit every angle through that, I think it's a very well-rounded thing. And it's also, it's probably a great tactic for increasing your endurance. So yeah, we love them. We think they're a great way to stay safe, practice safe, get everything warmed up, fine-tuned, and I think it's a great way to make some gains and some progress.
Yeah, I love that answer. So, how many times you train other than on the table, in the gym, at home, or wherever you train?
So for the most part in the gym, like I said, once a week on the table for the most part, and then outside of that, it's usually 3 to 4 times a week. I would like to do more, but life gets in the way of that quite a bit. So for the most part, it's 3 to 4 times at the gym. And my gym session, is usually an hour to an hour and a half for the most part. That's really all that I have time for. And I usually, I'm an overall body health type of guy. So I still hit everything at the gym, but every single component of the body I hit at the gym, and I break it out as best as I can within that 3 to 4 times a week. But I also, every time I go to the gym, I do hit my arm wrestling specific movements. And I think that's just for the way that I am and how I listen to my body. I'm a good proponent for listening to the body, unlike a lot of other guys out there. I do like to listen to the body. I like to see what my body is telling me, because you need to know your body in order to know how far you can push certain things. And you need to know the difference between good and bad pain, or soreness as opposed to pain. So 3 to 4 times a week, I hit everything. And I just think it's a good way to stay healthy and stay active and mobile, I guess, in a sense.
Okay, so are you structuring your training even in the gym, or you just doing it for general fitness and doing all the important stuff on the table?
So I don't write stuff down. I don't write anything down on a notepad. I don't record everything. Everything in the most part is in my head, but I do break it down. Certain sessions. One day will just be legs and abs. Another day will be buys and back. Another day will be triceps, chest. Another day shoulders, traps. So I do break down specifically, just in a general sense, something like that. And let's say if my session is, an hour and a half, I might do 20 minutes of arm wrestling specific stuff within that time frame. And that's almost every time that I do go to the gym. And I also do like to stretch too. At the beginning of the workout, I do about 10 minutes of stretching. I've noticed as I've progressed in the sport and stuff like that, your body's getting tight in certain areas. And I think stretching has just been a good release, and it feels good. And, a lot of guys in the sport, you could see their arms don't straighten. Certain things don't work as they should if you were just a normal gym type of guy. So I do like to focus on a lot of full range of motion stuff. And like I said, I think the stretching helps give access to that full range of motion. So yeah, that's a little bit on that.
Yeah. So my next question is going to be, what's your ratio between normal gym stuff and your specific workouts? And also, you mentioned you're doing a lot of full range. So what's the ratio between your full range and short arm wrestling angles?
All right. So I'd say, like I said, every time I go to the gym, I do hit some arm wrestling specific stuff. I would say around 20% is arm wrestling specific. Sometimes I will do a whole day of arm wrestling specific stuff, but for the most part, 20%. And more of my arm wrestling specific stuff I work out when I'm at home. So if I'm watching TV or just at home and, I want to get some work in, I will do 30 minutes of arm wrestling specific stuff on my cable machine in my garage. And I think that, like I said, just with the amount of time I've been putting into just general training and stuff, it's what works for my body specific. Everybody's different, so they're going to react differently. They need to figure out what works right for them. This seems to be what is working right for me. So yeah, and what was your second part to that question, Phil?
What's the ratio between you mentioned you're doing a lot of 4 reps too, because a lot of arm wrestlers don't do that. What's the ratio between that? You're doing 50-50 for short reps, or how are you doing it?
I'd say approximately 50-50 for full range as opposed to more static stuff. I don't like to do. I like to break it up enough that I feel like my body still feels good throughout everything. So, roughly 50-50. When my body is telling me that I'm doing too much static stuff and I feel tight and not loose, I'll go back into full range of motion stuff. But for the most part, definitely 50-50. And like I said, the arm wrestling specific movements and workouts are more on the static side. There's no reason to reinvent the wheel with arm wrestling. A lot of the workouts are out there. The information is out there. So I do all those typical type of workouts. But like I said, I do like to incorporate a lot of full range of motion stuff just for overall health for the body.
Do you have any favorite exercises, specific exercises for arm wrestling?
Anything on a cable machine is probably my favorite stuff for arm wrestling. Cable machine, you can hit absolutely any angle that you could possibly need and mimic on an arm wrestling table. I think, the cable machine is one of the best tools that an arm wrestler has for training. But I think it's no secret. I have a lot of pronation, back pressure, and I focus a lot on that. Although as my training has progressed, I've been addressing a lot of side pressure stuff that I know my game has been lacking, and it's definitely increased significantly over the past year. But just for the most part, I definitely say just anything on the cable machine, absolutely anything on the cable machine really hits what I need and what I try to use as a tool for arm wrestling.
Okay, you mentioned you're doing stretching, full range of motion. So, do you have any tips for recovery? Because I know you had a big injury. It was in your right hand, I think, after a big match with RVJ.
Yes.
So, do you have any special tips for recovery and something you are doing?
So, for recovery, specifically for that injury against RVJ, I had that injury over 2 years ago. That was February of 2017. I never got it checked out, and I didn't feel like I needed to get it checked out. It felt insignificant. It did not feel significant enough to get it checked out. So when I had that injury, I just took the normal time off. I took a few weeks off and then started hitting stuff. And then when I felt the injury like reignite in my elbow, I would just lay back a little bit. But it turns out I never gave it the proper amount of time in order to fully heal. And when I hit that injury again later last year, September, October, I eventually got it checked out, and it turned out I had a bit of a torn tendon in my elbow. It was partially torn, so I gave it 5 months of doing nothing on that right arm, and it finally came back the way that I needed to what I feel is 100% now. So I'd say the best thing for recovery is definitely trying to figure out what specifically the injury is and giving it the time it needs to rest. Definitely half the battle in terms of progressing in arm wrestling as an arm wrestler in the sport is resting your body. That's how I feel, at least. Everybody thinks differently, but that's how I feel. With my experiences, rest is super important, and that's why I'm a big proponent of listening to my body. But just general recovery when I feel certain sorenesses and stuff, a lot of high reps, a lot of that high reps gets the blood flow to where you need in certain parts of the body. And that's what I pretty much do for my recovery. And like I said, rest. you got to rest. You have to know your limits in order to continue to progress. Rest as best as you can. I know a lot of arm wrestlers struggle with resting.
Okay, and my last question for you is going to be, if you could go back in time and give yourself one tip, what would it be?
Probably it would be, I guess, in that injury, that specific injury. I should have given my right arm the proper rest that it needed. A lot of people say to work through certain things in order to help recover and heal it. I gave it a little bit of rest, not enough though that it needed the rest that it needed. So I definitely say the tip would be, when you are injured, try and give yourself enough rest in order to come back. I think the 2 years that I continued with this injury, it turned me, it changed my right arm a bit in terms of the type of arm wrestler and type of puller that I am. And I had to avoid getting in certain positions where I felt that injury, inflame. So I think instead of trying to work around an injury, you have to give it the proper amount of time in order to recover. While my right, I think, plateaued with that injury, my left started coming up a lot quicker. And I mean, that should have been the first sign where, I should have said, all right, I need to let my right rest. So that would be the one tip that I would say to a lot of people. If you ever get injured, give it the proper rest that it needs. And if you still feel that injury, you got to try and address it properly. However that may be for your body. I don't know. Everybody's different, but try and get it healed up because it sucks pulling while injured and trying to avoid certain angles. So.
Amazing. Thank you. These were all my questions, man, but I know you have a match in a couple of days at the next WL11. Can you tell us something more about that?
So the opportunity came up where turns out that I'm going to be pulling Jerome Loud. I don't know much about him. I've done my research. I've done the studying that I need to on him. It is going to be a real interesting match, and I'm glad that it happened now because, like I said, over the winter time, I gave my right the time that it needed in order to heal properly. And like I said, my right is the best version of it that it's ever been. So I'm really looking forward to this. It should be a really good match. He's going to come in a little heavier than me, but we'll see what the outcome is. I'm pretty confident. If he beats me on the right hand, it's the best version of me that there is. So that would be hats off to him. But like I said, feeling really confident, looking forward to it. It's going to be an experience all in itself because this will be the first WL super match series that I'll actually see in person as well. So I'm pretty excited to see this whole production behind it as well there in person.
Yeah, I'm really happy for you that you get your shot, because for me you were like one of the guys that have the most potential in the US. So I can't wait to see you fighting for that hammer soon.
I appreciate that, Philip. I appreciate that, and I hope you tune in, and I hope everybody else tunes in too. A lot of people don't know much about me because I don't travel that much, but now's the time to take the opportunity to start venturing out. Certain people have seen the videos and are recognizing it a bit. So now it's time to make a bit of a statement to put myself on the arm wrestling map. So we'll see. We will see. It's exciting.
For sure. I'm gonna leave links in the description for that for people to see it. And anyway, thank you for your time, man, and talk to you later.
Philip, it's always a pleasure, pal. Thank you.